Mason, what up? What's up,
Hey,
man?
John, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man. Flipping through YouTube trying to find something to watch, and I flipped you on, so I figured I'd call in and say what's going on.
Fantastic. Anybody who doesn't know, Mason Plummer, Golden Homers, check it out on Twitter. Find him, subscribe, listen to the podcast. Do a lot of recruiting work. What's on your mind, Mason, other than White Sox baseball? What's on your mind? We're not going to go there, but what's up with football?
Yeah, pulled out a close one today, but yeah, I thought, since you mentioned the podcast, I thought I'd bring up what we just recorded about today. I thought you might think that was interesting. So Nathan Urbach and I, he's my podcast partner, we both went through our top 5 must-get in terms of the whole class, the 2024 class. So that was pretty cool. We didn't talk about it beforehand, but we just went through our individual lists of guys that we think are must-get for Notre Dame this year, and I thought it'd be interesting to bring to your show.
I love that. What do you got?
Yes, I have some honorable mentions as well. You want me to start there and then go 5-1?
Beautiful. Let it rip.
All right. So I'm starting with both of the Smith brothers, Jared mainly, on the defensive line. I think there will be a package deal. I'm excited about those two.
That's my question. That was my number one question. Is that going to be a package type deal?
Yeah, I mean, from everything, they do their visits together, they post graphics together. I think if you get one, you get both. I'm excited about that. Kedron Young, the running back out of Texas, just missed my top 5. And then Jaden Riddell or Carter Nelson, both at tight end. I'd like to have another one other than Jack Larson. So those are 3 spots I'd like to hit. And then, John, to get into my top 5 here, I've got Kingston Villanasa, the linebacker out of California. I think that he brings a lot of size and versatility. I think Notre Dame's linebacker position's set up nicely for the future, but with him being 6'3", I think he could rush off the edge and just be a versatile guy. I think he's a faster Leofau. Next, I have any safety. I don't know if you've touched on this in the show, but the safety position, the depth is super concerning.
Yeah.
So I think Bronte Johnson, or there's another guy that Nathan mentioned on the show that his name's escaping me, but Bronte Johnson's a Fort Wayne, Indiana kid. They've had some issues being able to recruit him. We'll see how that goes, but he's been a guy I've been tracking for about 2 years now, so that would kind of suck if that didn't end up going in Notre Dame's favor. Number 3 for me, Gerby Lambert, the offensive lineman. There aren't a lot of true tackles when you're looking at high school kids. You don't always get a Blake Fisher coming out, and that's a true tackle immediately. But Gerby Lambert is that. Notre Dame's taken a lot of guards recently. So that's where I'd like to push for. Number 2, Jason Robinson, the wide receiver out of Cali. Notre Dame needs more receivers, and he looks like the top guy to pair with Cam Williams. I think they're both top 100 talents. And lastly, obviously, Justin Scott. So love what you see out of Justin Scott all the time. And anything that you can get on the defensive line in terms of 5-star talent, whether it's defensive tackle or rush end or a big end, give me all of that, because Georgia has about 25 Justin Scott.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's why Keeley hurt me so much. It was like, hey, Nick, can't you just go get one of the other 20 of these guys you can get and let us have the one guy that has good grades with it? Like, but no, he had to have that one. He had to get him.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt to see him balling out in all the college football playoffs and everything.
Yeah.
Sacks on sacks.
All right. So if you're looking at that as like must gets, are they realistic? Like, that's the next question, is how realistic? You're saying must get. Like, how far down are we on this path where we think Notre Dame's right in the mix to be a finalist for all these guys? Or do we not know yet?
Yeah, so I think these are all really realistic guys. They'll be visiting very soon. The month of April is big for visits, leading into May and June, when guys will start to make early decisions once they find the spots that they want to be. But the way I made my list was top talents that are on the top of Notre Dame's board, mixed in with how realistic are they, and then are they at a position of need? So that's how I made my top 5, and Nathan has different criteria for his. We'll be dropping that episode.
Yeah, and see, that's where I see, like, you can move up safety just because you feel like you need that more. Yeah, I get that.
Right, but, I mean, encouraging signs out of camp so far. The Ben Minnick is is getting some eyes. I think Adon Schuler, once he's healthy, would be getting those same reports. So you have 2 hits there. It's just too bad on Hillman and Bowen. That could be a really awesome safety class. But you got to keep adding bodies there. You're not going to get a Kyle Hamilton. I mean, that's a once in a generational kind of guy. So
was Mason or was Nathan pretty close with you on his, or did he have a couple guys at a different level, or totally different guys altogether in there?
We only had 2 that overlapped, and that would be Justin Scott and Gerby Lambert. Justin Scott, the defensive tackle, and Gerby Lambert, the offensive tackle. So, we both have some different targets that we think Notre Dame feels good about. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good. What would you say if I threw to you best case, worst case regular season record? Where would you fall on that?
Best case, I think 11-1 is in the cards. I don't think they make it through unscathed. That this schedule is pretty daunting.
Yeah, it is.
Worst case scenario, I'm gonna go 8-4. I think worst case would be you lose the big 3 and then another one in there, which is possible.
Yep, that would be that's exactly my numbers. I had 11-1 on the high end and a crappy 8-4. Everybody's gonna hate with a lot of dumb stuff on that end.
Yeah, I think 8. It really should be 9. Is the absolute floor with a guy like Hartman. But, weird things happen. A bunch of injuries could happen. Things just don't work out like you planned.
Yeah.
I was listening to you talk about the defense. It makes me a little bit nervous, too. But, for once, the secondary is the strength. Somebody has to break out in the defensive line. And we're hearing some good reports from guys I wouldn't necessarily expect, like Jason Anye.
Yeah.
I'm big on that. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And then the other thing with the schedule part is, it's a darn tough schedule. Like 22 and 23 are so much more difficult than like Kelly's last year, where the biggest game was Cincinnati at home and we couldn't get it done. Like, give me a break, man. Like, these are legitimately tough schedules. So Freeman's he's going through it, man, his first 2 years. Welcome to the big leagues, because it has just been one tough thing after the next. And I hope he emerges on the other side of that a stronger, in a better position.
Yeah, I think he'll look back, in a couple of years, hopefully he's still here 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and look back at the beginning like, wow, I don't know how I made it through, because he definitely has been dealt a tough hand. But I think we got the right guy at the helm, and I think you were the first one really calling for it back when he was defensive coordinator and just saying not to let him leave.
It was I'll be honest, it was the recruiting, man. It was all the reports I was hearing behind the scenes that the recruiting office couldn't even keep up with his paperwork and all the things he was asking them to check up on with these high school guys. And that was, to me, the number one thing Kelly didn't want to do. So it made perfect sense to me. Now, the downside of that is if he flames out and goes 7-5 this year, I'm taking that hit just like he is, because I was on his boat. So that's going to work for me or against me, but here I am.
Yeah, there's definitely been an uptick in recruiting. Everybody can tell that. I love the video you made going after that clown on Twitter. I went after him on Twitter, too. Super Patagna, saying that his recruiting's the same as Kelly's. That's horrible.
It screams to me a guy. They told him like the day before, you're going to be on this podcast talking about Notre Dame. And he pulled up the classes and then looked at a Kelly one. He goes, here's the narrative. It's short-sighted. If you do that for a living, you need to look into it more than that. That was a bad effort by him.
So do you think that, I think this sometimes, some of the things that pop up on my YouTube, do you think that they put out things like, these big websites, these big talking heads or whatever, they put out things targeted towards Notre Dame fans, like, because they know that we'll come in droves commenting and viewing and liking and clicking?
I get that, but don't you think that if you go too far with it, you risk losing credibility? If it's like absurd, then the clickbait nature of it, you're like, it's self-defeating because you're going to get a lot of clicks. But if all the clicks are everybody saying you're an idiot, is that really good for you long term?
I doubt it. And you'd think you'd want to have the Notre Dame fan base on your side, but I don't know.
Yeah, and the recruiting stuff altogether, I don't know what to trust anymore. Who's with us? Who's against us? Everybody's great, and then they commit to Notre Dame and they drop 100 spots the next week. I don't get it, man.
Right. Justin Scott's a certified 5-star, so is DJ Carr. So theoretically, we should have one on both sides of the ball if Scott goes through with, how everything's looking and goes to Notre Dame. But
all right.
I would imagine that
Let me give you a
Neither.
Scott nightmare scenario. 219, I got you next, Adam. You're coming up next. Let me give you a Scott nightmare scenario. I saw the quote of him saying he's a mama's boy and he likes being close to mom and all that. That favors Notre Dame, obviously, being right down the old toll road there. But I could love and miss my mama from Athens, Georgia, with 2 to 3 million in the bank, and I'll fly her down to see me whenever the hell I want. And I'm sitting on a bunch of money. Like, I'm just saying, the way things go, you could be a mama's boy from Athens too, and call her on the phone with 2 million in a book bag in the corner of the room. Just saying.
And she's got a new house to keep up with and all that, all the toys, new cars, all that.
I mean, you were the one who told me about a year ago, John, even a verbal commitment, don't count that to the bank. It sticks in my mind what you told me. All that is naming a leader in the clubhouse. That's it. And sure enough,
you're naming a public leader and telling everybody else to come after you.
Yeah. Yep. And recruiting's wild now, man. It's just so, it's just bizarre. I never thought we'd get to a point where even a verbal commitment doesn't really mean a commitment. It's like, why even call it a commitment then? Just call it a flirtation. Call it my number one flirtation. I don't know. I'm an old guy, man. I want you, if you commit verbally, then you're done looking around. Sorry. Or if not, why commit? Why commit then?
After these visits, we'll have some good news, John. I'll come back on the show in like May, and we can talk about hopefully a few commitments. But I'll get off and let you next guy hop on.
Beautiful.